which will be found on the screen. Make us holy.
By the breath of the Spirit.
Make us one.
By the love of the Spirit.
Make us remember.
By the words inspired by the Spirit.
Make us sing.
Using the breath of the Spirit.
Breathe on us.
O breath of God.
Now please rise and join me in singing our opening hymn. Please join me in prayer. Reveal yourself, God, through the power of your breath. We join your creation that is already offering prayers and praise. In the harmonies and melodies, remind us to experience your breath, blowing through us, giving us life, giving life to melodies, and sustaining us. May this sanctuary resonate, echo with the words of familiar and unfamiliar songs. May it inspire familiar and unfamiliar stories. And may your spirit be present in familiar and unfamiliar ways. We offer this through our breath. In the name of Jesus, amen. Welcome to Cypress Creek Christian Church. Now let's welcome one another with a hug, a handshake, or hello.
Good morning. How are you?
if you have a prayer request, please put it in the back, or put it on the back of the card. We take prayer very seriously here. There will be an opportunity to put it in the basket during communion, unless you're thinking about joining, and then keep a hold of it and give it to one of our pastors or elders at the close of the service. Next weekend is the 22nd Annual Disciples Women's Retreat here at Cypress Creek from 8:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. and features our own Reverend Ryan Newell. Sign-up forms are in the activity room this morning. Immediately following today's 11 a.m. service, there is a winter volunteer meeting for current children's Sunday school teachers and those interested in becoming Sunday school teachers. The last weekend of this month is the Disciples Men's Retreat, February 28th to 29th at Disciple Oaks Camp in Gonzales, Texas. All right, the chili cook-off is coming. Sign up right outside the sanctuary and serve your best chili on the 23rd. And finally, tomorrow, this Monday is Spirit Day at Gringo's right next door on Cypress Wood. Make sure to tell them that you're with Cypress Creek Christian Church, and a portion of the meal goes back to the church. Now, let's hear today's scripture reading.
Today's scripture comes from Psalm 98. Sing to God a brand new song. He's made a world of wonders. He rolled up his sleeves to set things right. God made history with salvation. God showed the world what he could do. The Lord remembered to love us, a gift to his dear family, Israel, a tireless love. The whole earth comes to attention. Look, God's work of salvation. Shout your praises to God, everybody. Let loose and sing. Strike up the band. Round up an orchestra to play for God. Add on 100-voice choir. Feature trumpets and big trombones. Fill the air with praises to King God. Let the sea and its fish give a round of applause, with every living thing on earth joining in the praise. The ocean breakers call out encore, and mountains harmonize the finale. A tribute to God when he comes to set the earth right. He'll straighten out the whole world. He'll put the world right and everyone in it.
Today we're going to explore how the Spirit has moved people through music. Music has always been a big part of the disciples of Christ worship. And the disciples of Christ has always embraced the use of musical instruments. Many of the songs you'll hear today have been around since the church's earliest days. We'll be hearing about It Is Well With My Soul, from Dana and Angela White, and Joy to the World from Connie Brandt, and Gather Us In from Walter Raybon. Shannon Jacobson, after we pray, will tell us about how great thou art. Now let's hear the breath of God through music.
I heard this hymn many Sundays growing up in church. Like a lot of other well-known church songs, its words became embedded in my memory, and I knew them by heart. I sang the words, but I never really thought about their meaning. Then one afternoon, March 2005, the song took on breath. I was driving in my car while listening to some music that I had put together to comfort my mom during her last few days in hospice care. My mind had wandered a little bit when suddenly I became aware of the words I was singing. It is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. I restarted the song again to listen, and again and again. The message to me became clear. No matter what we walk through in this life, God is with us and his peace will prevail. It's been a favorite hymn of mine since that day. I later came to appreciate the hymn in a new way when I learned of its origin. Perhaps you've heard the story. Horatio Spafford was a successful attorney and businessman who lived in Chicago, Illinois. He was a senior partner in a large law firm. His investments in real estate just north of Chicago provided his family with a comfortable lifestyle. In 1871, Horatio's 4-year-old son died of pneumonia. In October that same year, the Great Chicago Fire reduced the city to ashes, including all of Horatio Spafford's investments. In 1873, he planned a European vacation to help his family try to recover from their turmoil. At the last minute, he was forced to stay behind to solve an unexpected business problem. But he sent his wife Anna and their 4 daughters on ahead. 4 days into the journey, their ship was struck by another ship, and the 4 Spafford daughters, Annie, Margaret Lee, Bessie, and Tanetta, all drowned. Anna Spafford was found unconscious, floating on a piece of the wreckage. 9 days later, she arrived in Europe and wired a message to her husband, saying, "Saved alone, what shall I do?" Horatio Spafford took the next available ship to be with his grieving wife. One afternoon, as they crossed the Atlantic, the ship's captain called Horatio to his cabin to say that they were then passing over the spot where his daughters had died. Later that day, Horatio Spafford penned these words: "When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to know. It is well with my soul." I find it amazing that these uplifting words could come out of such sorrow. To me, it shows us that we can trust God to guide us through even the darkest times in our lives and bring us peace. My story is a little different in that it is a very personal family story. However, the beautiful melody of Joy to the World was written by Handel in Antioch, I believe was the name of his composition. And then the words, the lyrics were done by Isaac Watts.
And it was very popular, especially in the American frontier, the very favorite Christmas carol. We have been in this church since the beginning, though we've traveled a far piece a lot of times. And I have a story about my children, our children, Dwayne, sorry. And this is careless. Can you show that, please? This is a beautiful wooden steed called Wonder Horse. And our children absolutely adored it. Now, Harvey took our picture of Lauren on Wonder Horse, but this is Michael, too, 40 years ago. He just had his 42nd birthday. So they loved this horse. Lauren loved Wonder Horse. It wasn't a rocking horse. It was on 4 big springs. And throughout our house, you could hear boing, 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 front, back, up, down, side to side. Loved that horse. One thing they loved more was God and our church. And their very favorite service was Christmas Eve. So they were little kids, and we came to the Christmas Eve service, and Lauren went dancing out of the church. She was in a Christmas dress, and she twirled around. She said, "They love me." Sounds like Sally Fields. "They love me. They all really love me." I said, I had heard her say, "I love God, and God loves me, and I love Jesus, and Jesus loves me, and I love the church, and the church loves me." But this night she said, "Mom, the people of the church love me." She put lots of syllables and things, and I said, being a great parent, tell me more about that. I had no idea what she was talking about. So anyway, she said, "Oh, Mom, you know, they sang to me. They sang to my horse. And wonder horses love, and wonder horses love, and wonder horses love." Ta-da! She finished everything with that. So I have to confess that every Christmas, I sing that once, and that Christmas carol was sung at her celebration of life. She couldn't be here today because she is busy in heaven, but I know she would want to say to you, people of the church, thank you for loving me so well, and thank you for loving Wonder Horse, and I bid a fond farewell to that faithful steed. See you in heaven, Wonder Horse.
Thank you.
one that I selected when they asked me to pick a hymn and speak with you about it this morning. It's the first time I've ever heard it on a pipe organ. I've been here back at Cypress Creek for 3 years, and I can't recall if I've sung it here before. If you know this hymn or it sounds familiar to you, just raise your hand. I'd kind of like to know. Well, thank you for singing it. It's one of my favorites. I picked this hymn because I like the tune of it. It's got a 6/8 rhythm. It kind of dances. I picked this hymn because when I knew many people would be picking their favorite hymns, this hymn is less than 100 years old. We have not sung yet today a hymn that is less than 100 years old. There will be at least 2 more coming, but this is the first. And I like the everyday language of this. It's something that at least sounds sort of modern, gathering us in, the rich and the haughty, the blind and the lame. It's not the old language that I think might appeal to new people who are being gathered in. I like the lyric of this hymn because to me it talks about who we are as a church. It talks about who has gathered us here and why we are gathered here and who we are when we leave this place. And so I'd like to ask you, I invite you to either close your eyes or look around and just reflect for a moment with me. I'd like you to think about, in the context of this hymn, being gathered in and who we are, who are the people that have touched you in your life that might have been a factor in you being here this morning, called to be here in worship. When we come to worship here at Cypress Creek, is everyone like you? Do you find value in that? When we come here for worship and we go from this place, what is it that might keep your heart singing? Then when we go back out in the community, we're contagious. This hymn does all of that for me. We've sung the first 2 verses, and I'm going to let the rest of the hymn preach itself. Here we will take the wine and the water. Here we will take the bread of new birth. Here you shall call your sons and your daughters. Call us anew to be salt of the earth. Give us to drink the wine of compassion. Give us to eat the bread that is you. Nourish us well and teach us to fashion lives that are holy, hearts that are true. Not in the dark of buildings confining, not in some heaven light years away, but here in this place, the new light is shining. Now is the kingdom. Now is the day. Gather us in, hold us forever. Gather us in and make us your own. Gather us in, all peoples together. Fire of love in our flesh and our bones. Fire of love in our flesh and our bones. Every Sunday when I sing this hymn, I feel a glow inside, and when I walk out, I find myself humming it and singing it in the afternoon. My prayer is that all who are gathered here today, anywhere in worship, that all of us gathered here today may be blessed with the fire of love in our flesh and our bones. And being so blessed, let us be a blessing. Amen.
instruments our very selves to you with the notes we play, with the words we say, and with the music that we bring. Help what we do be not just acceptable in your sight, but illuminated so that we are inspired by your word. You remembered to love us tirelessly. Help us to remember to shout your praises tirelessly. You breathed into each of us the gift of life, and in response to that breath, we sing your praises. We offer our voices in the name of the one who intercedes on our behalf, Jesus Christ, and together as one voice, all God's children say, Amen.
Good morning. Good morning. A little change of scenery. I'm back here at the music stand where I'm comfortable. And I'm not going to lie, when Joel asked me to speak this morning, my first inclination was to say no. Because he asked me to speak about a hymn. First of all, I'm not really much of a public speaker. I can sing in front of thousands, but speaking in front of tens makes me a little nervous. It's just different. But I've been a church musician since basically the day I was born. I started singing in church when I was 2 or 3. And so to ask me to choose a favorite hymn, it's kind of like asking me to choose a favorite child. And most days, that's not easy. But the more I thought about it, I kept coming back to one, which is How Great Thou Art. It holds a lot of fond memories for me. I remember singing it out of the hymnal as a child and growing up, but it became very special when my oldest daughter, Anna, was young. She and my husband, Jimmy, every night before bed would sing hymns, and How Great Thou Art became her favorite. She knew all the words, and when she was about 5, we sang it as a duet in church, and that was her first solo in church. Little side note, that 5-year-old is now an 18-year-old senior, and she'll be going to San Antonio next week to sing with the Texas All-State Choir, so kind of started here. So there are several reasons I love How Great Thou Art. The music is beautiful, it's kind of a simple tune, and it's really lovely sung a cappella, and can be haunting sung a cappella. But it can also be worked into elaborate and spectacular musical arrangements. But the reason I really love it are the lyrics. The opening phrase sends chills up my spine. O Lord my God, when I in awesome wonder consider all the worlds thy hands have made. But for me, it's really the chorus that speaks to me, because it starts with, then sings my soul. I have a large calligraphy rendition of those words hanging in the entry to my home. If ever a phrase captured the way I worship, that would be it. So in preparation for today, I went looking for the story behind those words, and discovered that the song actually originally had very different lyrics. How Great Thou Art was originally written as a poem by a man named Karl Boberg in Sweden in 1885. He had been at church and was walking home, and a violent storm blew through, but then just suddenly vanished as quickly as it had come. And in the calm after the storm, he saw a rainbow, heard the church bells, and heard the song of a bird. He fell to his knees in awe and was inspired to write the song, which was originally titled O Store Gud, which translates literally to O Great God. The poem originally had 9 verses and was later set to the tune of a traditional Swedish folk song. And then in 1907, it was translated into German, and in 1912, it was translated into Russian. But it took a while to make it across the pond. And when it finally did in 1925, it was translated into English, but the lyrics were different than the ones we know today. If you had sung this song then, the chorus would have gone like this. With rapture filled my soul thy name would laud, Almighty God, Almighty God. Which is fine, it's nice. But to me, it falls a little flat because, again, then sings my soul, it's so descriptive to me. I would probably still like the hymn if it had those words, but I don't know if it would be one of my favorites. And there were a few other English translations along the way that didn't quite hit the mark. But in 1949, a British missionary named Stuart K. Hine was in Ukraine when he heard the Russian translation of the hymn and was inspired to create the English paraphrase known as How Great Thou Art. He eventually went on to add several more verses, including the third and fourth verses that we sing today. This version wasn't widely published until 1955, and there was initially some argument as to which version was the better of the two. But in 1957, two men named George Beverly Shea and Cliff Barrows were traveling with a little operation known as the Billy Graham Crusades. And they sang this song at Madison Square Garden. Later, Cliff Barrows recounted that they sang it 100 times during that crusade because the audience would not let them stop. It soon became known as the theme to the Billy Graham Crusades. After that, its popularity began to soar, and How Great Thou Art is now the second most popular traditional hymn, right behind Amazing Grace. It's been translated into dozens of languages and has been recorded over 1,700 times. Perhaps the best known of these recordings is by Elvis Presley, who received 2 Grammys for 2 recorded versions of the song and who sang it on his farewell tour just weeks prior to his death in 1977. It's still being widely sung and recorded today, and in the past 5 years, it's been recorded by popular artists such as Amy Grant, Carrie Underwood, Pentatonics, and John Mayer. I'm very blessed to be able to sing it this morning as today's anthem. This is an arrangement of the hymn by one of my favorite current church composers, Dan Forrest. I love this arrangement because the composer uses the music to mimic the emotions of the lyrics with big, awe-inspired flourishes, quiet, reflective passages, somber moments, and a joyful, triumphant ending inspired by Christ's return to take us home and the joy that fills our hearts in that time. Please enjoy How Great Thou Art, arranged by Dan Forrest.
know the Spirit is in this place, and as we prepare to receive the elements, remember that this is a table that is open to all. It does not matter if you were a member of this church or this denomination. All means all. In a moment, if you are seated in the main sections, you will come forward to receive the elements. Those seated on the back row and in the balcony, the elements will be brought to you. Let us prepare for a time at the table.
Please allow me to sing my rendition. I'm just kidding. After hearing all those beautiful hymns, I am tempted to break out in song, but I think I do more harm than good. So please keep those smiles, because this is a celebration. Join us as we celebrate God's promise. Here at Cypress Creek Christian Church, this is the Lord's table, and this community is open to all believers in Jesus Christ. As Julie said, we invite everyone here to participate. Please prepare your hearts and minds by joining us in prayer. Let us pray.
Just as King David used music and song to praise you, Holy God, we also praise you with our voices and our music. And because you first loved us, you paid the supreme sacrifice for our sins on Calvary, that we might have everlasting life with you. We come to this table to celebrate your gift of life, and we join our voices and sing to the heavens that you are great and you are good. And as you taught us to pray, we also pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our sins as we forgive those who sin against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
At this time, let us look back to the night of the Last Supper and the words of Christ detailed in 1 Corinthians. For I have received of the Lord, but have also handed on to you, that the Lord Jesus, on the night when he was betrayed, took a loaf of bread. And when he had given thanks, he broke it, and said, "Do this in remembrance of me." In the same way, he took the cup, also after supper, saying, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood. Do this as often as you drink it in remembrance of me. For as often as you eat this bread and drink from this cup, you proclaim the Lord's death until he comes." The table is set. All are welcome. All is prepared. Please come.
as we rejoice in your presence. With grateful hearts, we bring this offering to you to use with your guidance. Let our voices and actions be a reflection of your loving spirit, Almighty God, as we use our many gifts to better serve you. Amen.
When Joel actually called me to be part of the service, I must have asked him 3 times. You mean I don't have to sing, right? So I'm glad we got through that part. Just thank you for being here with us today. And if any of you want to make Cypress Creek your church home, meet with a pastor or an elder after the service. We hope that you will go out this week and raise your voice and know that God is with us always. And with that said, we ask that you look to the screens, link hands, and join us in our closing prayer. Gracious God,